Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 18th, and right now we are looking at the low-level water vapor loop, the Himawari satellite. You can see Japan, Korea, Aleutian Islands, West Alaska is here. Here's the Bering Sea. This is our pattern change coming up here. You can see the system coming off the continent of Asia here, and this is going to be headed towards Pacific Northwest. Has a bit of a subtropical tap with it, so it will bring some precipitation with it as it comes our way. If you look way out here, you can see this deep low across the Gulf of Alaska here, impacting just mainly the state of Alaska. Looking a little bit closer to home, infrared satellite imagery, see that deep low spinning up through. Impressive storm right there. Not much impact over the Pacific Northwest here, but you can see our pattern change system out here off to the west here. It is headed our way, folks. Big pattern change coming up here through this weekend on in through next week, still on schedule. We're looking at Seattle here, 67, big cool down from the previous day of 88, still above average though. As you can see, average high for this time of year is 60 for Seattle, nowhere near that record high of 74 back in 1989, and we are going to cool down potentially below average through next week, but we are going to remain in the 60s here for the next 2 or 3 days. Looking at Portland, similar deal here. Big cool down from the previous day, nowhere near the record high, and still some warm temperatures coming up this week before the big change comes on in through next week. This is my home. Big cool down. You can see it here on the chart, 86 down to 67 yesterday. Still some degraded air quality around my house here in the central Puget Sound, as is the case of much of the Pacific Northwest. As you can see here, even some unhealthy reading, especially up towards Bellingham, Vancouver, Abbotsford, and even off towards eastern Washington, Oregon, not exempt from the unhealthy or degraded air quality, as you can see here. Looking at the NAM 3KM, this is 2,500 feet, 925 millibars. As we go on in through the morning hours, you can kind of see that offshore flow already returning this morning here, going to start to bring some of that smoke back into the region. And as we go through this afternoon, you can see that offshore flow get going a little bit more on in through tonight. And by the time we get to Wednesday morning, it's going full. You can see the easterlies coming through the gorge here, all the way out across the ocean. A little bit of a northeast component across Washington, Oregon as well. By the time we go to Wednesday night here, you can still kind of see this offshore component going on here, but we have some relief on the way here. By the time we get towards midnight on into Thursday morning, you see those westerlies coming down the east slopes of the Cascades of Washington, down the Strait of Juan de Fuca, Strait of Georgia. Onshore flow is on its way. It's going to take a little bit longer for western Oregon to get that onshore flow, but by the time we get to Thursday afternoon, you can see it across the entire area, blasting through the gorge and across some of the Cascades of Washington too. So we're going to get some onshore flow ahead of the system on Friday. This is Thursday afternoon, so that'll be much welcomed as we stir up the atmosphere in advance of the system coming on Friday afternoon. Taking a look here, this is a spaghetti plot. This is looking all the way out towards Sunday. You can see noodles all over the place, but you can still see the signal there for that low pressure system. Models in pretty good agreement on the ensemble here as to the placement of that low as it swings probably into western BC. Could bring some breezy or even windy conditions across the area. We continue to watch that system. It's still a little ways out there, and this is a low confidence system. It's going to be developing right out here across the Gulf of Alaska and kind of be a late breaking storm, so probably all the way up until a day or two in advance. It's going to be low confidence on just how this system develops and moves towards western British Columbia. Now looking here, another spaghetti plot, total precipitation. Any yellow line you see here is generally above 2 inches. You can see the Cascades, great signal for some significant precip coming up here, help put out those fires. And you can see the coastal ranges getting on the action too, even some ensembles saying 4+ inches. And this is just through Sunday as well. We've got multiple systems that are going to continue to come through next week. So a lot of precip on the way. This is snow here. So this is only through Sunday evening also. You can see the yellow line is 8 inches on this map here. So some pretty good snowfalls coming just through Sunday night. And again, we're going to have multiple systems here, but some of the systems off into the extended through next week could be a little bit warmer here and a little bit wetter. It just depends on what's coming down the pipe. We'll check that out here in a moment. Now taking a look here, European on the left, GFS, actually Canadian ensemble on the right. Right now, you can see the big ridge over the Pacific Northwest. Here's the North Pole, Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon. And as we put this into motion here, you can see the ridge starts to kick off here. We get the flattening of the ridge. Onshore flow will start on the day Thursday with this little weak impulse moving by. And then as we go on into Friday night here, you can see the trough digging down across Pacific Northwest. That's going to be our first main system here. And then the next one potentially on the heels of that, shown on both the Canadian and the European swinging through there. Could be a stronger system there. As we go on a little bit further, you can see the trough is still open here at the 10-day period across Pacific Northwest, possibly multiple systems moving through the area. We'll take a closer look at that here in a moment. Now, right now, we're looking at yesterday afternoon's European deterministic versus the GFS on the right. Let's see how the GFS did last night. Let's see if it's coming into agreement with the European at all. Ridge starts to flatten out on the day Thursday. That's going to help with that onshore flow kicking across the region. Both the GFS and the European agree on that feature there. Then here comes Friday's system. You see it on the European here. The GFS, pretty good agreement with the European here. You can see that trough squarely open over southern BC and Washington State at that point. And then the next system here, you can see the European still painting it clear as day. GFS kind of showing it a little bit here. It's been having some wild inconsistency in its runs. It's been showing deep lows out over the Gulf of Alaska, and it's been kind of hinting at this system moving through western BC. But the European has been very consistent with it, but it has backed off on the strength with it a little bit. But this is still a pretty potent system that would move through here on the night, Sunday night, and through Monday morning. Then you can see the European swing another powerful system down through the Pacific Northwest. GFS a little bit more of a trough out over the Pacific Ocean here, but you can still see continued active weather through the extended on in through next week here on both models, as you can see right now. Looking at total precipitation, this is just kind of give you an example of what's going on. This is yesterday afternoon's run. As you go through Thursday afternoon, we could get some precip through British Columbia, maybe even the North Cascades. Thursday night into Friday morning, and then the system on Friday hits. You can really see it overtake the region. Nice precipitation values through the Cascades, especially targeting the Cascades of Oregon down here as well, and the coastal range. Central Puget Sound, there could be convergent zones going on. There's all kinds of stuff we have to look at once we start getting in the range, the high resolution short-term models as we go here. So there's going to be tons to look at here over the next week or so. And then you'll see the next system roll through here as we go through Sunday night and morning. Just huge signal here across the Cascades. But again, we're going to be some areas going to be rain shadowed down low across the Strait of Georgia, Puget Sound, North Puget Sound, down through the Willamette Valley, but we'll continue to watch those mesoscale features as we get closer. Looking through next week too, another system yet again. Look at Seattle calling for over 2 inches of rainfall here. Portland up over 2 inches. Big signal in the mountains, even some help out for the Rockies and Northeast Oregon as well. Now, taking a look here, this is a wide angle view of the Pacific Ocean. There's Hawaiian Islands, there's Alaska, British Columbia, Washington, Oregon here. The deep low exists here across the Gulf of Alaska. You can see it really impacting the shoreline here as we go through tonight. On in through tomorrow morning, you still see no precipitation, of course, forecast. Then that weak system kind of slides by on Thursday. It's going to kick that onshore flow across the region. Not much precipitation, but maybe a little for northern portions of Washington and through BC. Here comes our system on Friday here, though. You can see this low kind of develop right as it makes landfall across Washington here, bringing some good precipitation values across the region. Here goes our next system here on the European, a little bit deeper, moving into British Columbia. It could bring some breezy or windy conditions all the way down through the Oregon coast, Washington, Southwest BC as well, but renewed precipitation. Another system develops as we go through mid the following week, and then another frontal system on through the extended portion of this forecast as well. As you can see, the trough is open across Pacific Northwest. Now, this is looking at the wind speed at 30,000 feet. You can see the ridge kind of still over the area here. Ridge flattens out. Going to bring our onshore flow Thursday here. Then here comes Friday's system here, the bend in the jet stream. That's our trough that brings that system on through Friday night into Saturday morning. The next system dives. Excuse me, I'm frogging up here. So the next system dives through here on Sunday night into Monday. And this is an interesting feature here I wanted to show you guys. But we'll get back to that in a moment. You can see the next trough opening up through midweek, and then a potential system maybe through the end of the forecast period there. But now let's go play this again and check this out. Ridge comes. Watch this. You see how we kind of drop this cutoff low here through this troughing here? And we just kind of leave this cutoff low here. The cutoff low says, I don't like this. I want to get back into westerlies here. So it joins the westerlies, and a lot of the system on Sunday night into Monday morning depends on how this we reintroduce this energy back into the jet stream air. How will this interact with the jet stream? Is it going to help develop this system here? Is it even going to bring a little bit of ridging and maybe make that system weaker? Models have trended a little bit weaker with that system on Sunday, but kind of an interesting feature there. Watching that cutoff low. So we see the jet stream drop that cold air off, then reintroduce it here, and then continue to pound the Pacific Northwest with systems on and through the extended. Here's a look at 10,000 feet. Same thing here. Alaska, Hawaii, Washington is there. Ridging over us now. Very weak system moves through on Thursday. And then the stronger system dives down on Friday and Saturday morning here. Cold air over the region here. Next system starts diving down Sunday as well. And then we continue to just get bombarded through the extended forecast here. But you can kind of see that here. You can see the jet stream drop this cold air off. Then it says, oh, I'm going to grab you back up and put you in the jet stream and throw you back at the Pacific Northwest again. So kind of an interesting feature there. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, some nice warm days actually for this time of year up through Thursday. Then we're going to start that onshore flow on Thursday, kick the smoke out, and then potentially go below average through the extended shown here. Vancouver, similar pattern shown. Not bad temperatures for the next few days. And then we go below average. Spokane, pattern change clearly evident here on the European deterministic run out 10 days. Boise, you can see the pattern change. You're not going to be exempt from this also. Portland International, look at this. We're going to go from 80s to 50s here, maybe even low 50s through the extended. Klamath Falls, look at this, all the way down 50 degrees might be some of your high temperatures, maybe even a little bit lower. Big pattern change coming up here. Really chilly overnight lows coming with this cold air as well. And probably in the higher terrain, that's going to introduce maybe even a little bit of snow or frost in some of the overnight or morning hours. Here's Missoula, nice warm days coming up. Pattern change, going to get western Montana as well. Look at some of these chilly highs and chilly overnight lows coming with a good dose of cold air blasting down through the western portions of North America here. Now this is a total precipitation model run trend. So if you look here, you can see the timing of Friday night system has been pretty rock solid here on the European. It's not budging much. You can see some of the variation in the amounts and the timing of the precipitation, but as you can see, by the time we get to the 26th, looks like Portland's going over 2 inches of precipitation here according to the European. It backed off from the last couple of runs here, but again, this can vary and change again. Looking at Seattle, Tacoma, again, the timing pretty good here and some good precipitation amounts. By the time we get to the 26th, the morning should be over 2 inches here at Seattle, Tacoma. Of course, more in the mountains. Stevens Pass shown here. We really could use this. This is a good indicator of what the Bolt Creek fire area up there is going to get. You can see some of these areas getting up over 3 inches, 4 inches as we get towards the 26th next week. So bring it on. Let's get those fires out. Let's just not bring too much so we don't start to introduce mudslides and whatnot up towards those areas up in the west slopes of the Cascades. Stevens Pass here showing the latest run. Control says up over a foot of snow by early next week. I don't know how much of that is going to stick all the time here, but you can see snowy signals showing up here through early next week. This is Stevens Pass, the trend here. You can see some of these values were higher and it's kind of backed off a bit, but it still shows some good amounts as we go through early and mid next week. Mount Baker ski area still showing nice amounts. You can see it backed off on yesterday morning's run, bounced back again. So you can expect these variations as we go, but a pretty good signal for some snow in portions of the Cascades. Snoqualmie Pass not going to be exempt from this also. Some pretty good snow amounts coming up there. At least a little taste of winter headed our way here through late October. Mount Hood, similar thing here, kind of backed off from the previous run, but it'll probably vary back and forth here as we get closer to the event. Siskiyous, look at this, even a little bit of measurable snow down towards the California border there through Oregon, southern Oregon. As you guys know, I-5 runs right through that area too, maybe even some snow all the way down to I-5. Siskiyou Summit, good needed precipitation down there, so glad to see the signal. It's actually trended upwards over the last couple of days on the amount of precipitation forecast for the Siskiyou Summit there. Mount Baker ski area on the GFS, kind of some wild swings. Just the GFS has been not handling these systems well, and it kind of downgraded on the last run, but I'm not taking the GFS too seriously right now, just kind of showing that we do have that snow potential. And here's that Pacific North American oscillation. You see the huge pattern change, unmistakable here, just well into negative territory. And this is a pretty variable oscillation here. So that after a couple of weeks, this always switches back. This doesn't just stay in negative territory the entire winter like La Nina does. This kind of goes back and forth. It'll come back up here towards the beginning of November, and then it'll jostle back down again. This is a very variable oscillation. And this is deterministic here, kind of showing actually it remaining negative through the end of October here before it'll probably start to bounce back and then start to vary again. Now looking at the wind potential here, the models have kind of backed off a bit, but we're still looking at a potentially breezy system rolling through here Sunday night. The previous model run had some up over 50 and even 60 miles per hour. So there is some potential for that system still, but it has backed off a little bit here. And that was 2 runs ago. Let's look at yesterday morning. As you can see, it still had some big windstorms in there. But again, there's a lot of ensembles that are not that windy, so you got to take that into account also. Now, taking a look here, 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, unmistakable pattern change coming through the west here. Look at that signal. Bullseye right on Idaho there. This is October 23rd through the 27th. And you can see the precipitation outlook, very strong signal, and that is very likely on the way, folks. So here's the experimental product, risk of hazardous temperatures. I don't know about this. Maybe this is for farmers, I mean, who are dealing with crops. It's not something that we're going to be dealing with below 0 temperatures or anything like that. That's going to hurt the general public for the most part. But here's the risk of high winds. They did introduce this for portions of the Willamette Valley in western Washington. That would include southwest BC as well. So kind of a interesting thing there on the experimental risk of high wind product. You can see the risk of heavy precipitation, experimental again, but this is moderate now for portions of western Washington, Oregon, including the Cascades. This would include southwest BC as well. Risk of heavy snow, check this out. Cascades are going to get a good dose here. Moderate confidence on this product here, and some snow all the way down through the Sierra Nevada here. So yeah, a little taste of winter here through the end of October. And this is just to show you guys, if you didn't see yesterday, kind of showing the new La Nina potential here as it probably is going through February. By the time we get to March, we could be coming out of La Nina here towards neutral conditions. And look at this, El Nino starting to rear its head here as we get towards summertime coming up. So maybe in the next year or two, we'll be talking about El Nino conditions, which brings a whole other set of threats to Pacific Northwest. Taking a look here, you can kind of see that trend as we hit December there. We start crawling out as we go through January, February. And then by the time we get to March, we're going to be right on the borderline of La Nina and start to crawl out of there. But you can see a little bit more here on the CFS forecast as it kind of crawls out pretty fast there. And by the time we get towards summer, we could be into positive territory across the Central Pacific Ocean here. That is where we measure these conditions. You can see this is South America, Mexico there. Let's zoom in a little bit. You can see La Nina plainly in charge here for the next few months. And then the potential for that waning quite rapidly as we get towards May and June. All right, so yeah, pattern change, it's on its way here, folks. We just have to bide our time here for a few more days. Another little bout with some forest fire smoke for western portions here through the metro areas. But it's on its way. It's probably going to make it a little bit easier knowing that the onshore flow is coming. Then we're finally going to get that rainfall. It'll be interesting to see just how fast we can put out these forest fires. Like I've heard, a lot of these fires can smolder for months after, even after significant rainfalls. But for the most part, you can really reduce the amount of smoke they produce. So hopefully we can get on that and really restrict the smoke these fires are putting out here. I know it's given a lot of people a lot of hard time with, you know, it's pretty nasty. It gets in your lungs. It can enhance colds and all kinds of nasty stuff here. So hopefully we put that out and we can put these forest fires behind us and start to move into the fall season here and start to concentrate on winter coming up here. I should have that windstorm series. I have a few days coming up that I am off, and I'll be able to work on those. And I'll probably put the initial video out. They're probably going to consist of probably 3 to 6 videos here coming up. And I'll probably do individual videos for some individual huge windstorms we've had in our past. So anyway, thanks for all the new members signing up. You guys make this page possible. Please click like, subscribe, tell your friends. You guys are making this channel grow rather quickly here, and we're over 10,000 subscribers. So if you guys want daily updates or updates during the day, go ahead and check me out at Seattle Weather Guy on Twitter, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll do this all again.